Good evening and welcome to our second Studio Sessions event. You are joining us here at our Resident Artist Studio space at the Houston Center for Contemporary Craft. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us. My name is María-Elisa Heg and I'm the Curatorial Fellow here at Houston Center for Contemporary Craft. And I'm joining today Brian Vu in his studio space. Howdy, Brian.
Hi.
Brian is an interdisciplinary artist from Dallas, Texas. He has an MFA in ceramics from the Cranbrook Academy of Art, as well as a BA in ceramics and contemporary dance from Bennington College, which I look forward to talking to you a little bit more about later. But yeah, while he's been here, Brian's been working on a body of work in ceramics, incorporating wood, and he is known to incorporate a number of different materials in his sculptural projects, and I'm really looking forward to learning a little bit more about your process and the work you've got going on and what you've got coming up. So thanks a lot for having us.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, where to start off?
Well, I was going to start off, also I have my little battery of questions because I just want to make sure I don't forget any of the things I wanted to ask you today. But I thought maybe it might be interesting to start off with a little conversation about the different materials that you incorporate into your sculptural work, because I know there has been a progression for you that's involved metal, clay, and then fairly recently wood. So do you want to talk a little bit about your material explorations?
Yeah, sure. So I think first to start off, being like using clay as a base comes from like this background, utilizing and making goods that are meant for the household and anything you can use on a daily basis. And then after a while of grad school and other experiences, making work, I think over time using different materials to add into the conversation kind of like blurs where clay works might be. So I also think about there's this theory by Plato called the theory of forms or theory of ideas, depending on what type of text you read. That it's about kind of idealizing what the perfect idea of a form is, whether it be a cup or a plate or say an apple. So you have an idea of what that form is. Everyone has their idea of what it is in their head. That it's like when you try to attempt at making it or produce it or replicate it, it's always like going to be a derivative or kind of like a fake of the actual idea. So in my work, it's kind of always getting to an attempt at making like this ideal form, whether it's with craftsmanship or with color or with doing something super precise or whatnot. It's always an attempt at getting at something super precise, perfect. And with that, with using other materials, I think it's always an attempt at trying to create this ideal form for myself that incorporates a lot of different languages. And I think with that, where I currently am with this new body of work and maybe where I am in a mental space too, is like treating materials the same way they would be treated in everything I do. So if I were to be using wood or steel, I would treat it the same way I would treat with ceramics, but vice versa. And so I think the effect that I've gotten, the effects that has been produced for me and what I've gotten from it is that it kind of blurs the language, kind of, in a way that I think doesn't really say that it is ceramic or steel or wood or one material or another. And also, in addition with color, like adding a surface on top of it kind of blends all these languages together. And I think like incorporating like shelving unit references or with wood or steel and using plates and bowls through ceramics or plastic and acrylic and whatnot. And also other synthetic and natural sources within the work. I think coating them out with color also kind of levels the playing ground for all materials. So they all kind of blend in with their languages.
It's really interesting that you refer to this sort of like ideal object where, you know, if I think about what the idealized cup or the cup from which all other cups proceed, there are certain qualities of cupness that I think of, but that I feel like you're challenging in your pursuit of this sort of self-determined ideal. So for me, for instance, you know, cupness doesn't necessarily involve a specific shape, but more a functionality or a holdingness. But in your pursuit of these idealized forms and compositions, you're actually doing a lot of things that render these objects non-functional in this sort of traditional way. So while you have works that reference plateware and place settings, some of your surface treatments and the way that you've created these objects make them sort of non-functional in that way that somebody might think of this sort of like prime object from which this is a derivative. But you're sort of, it seems like you're taking the derivative process and then through it creating a new primal object from which your work then proceeds. So do you feel like there's maybe like an composition that you like have created, or are you sort of working through these compositions in an attempt to sort of bring to life the one that you are conceiving of in your mind?
I think that it's like a combination of like life experiences also. On the other side of where the work comes from is like my constant like nomadic sort of lifestyle of like moving from one place to another. So I'm from like the Dallas area originally, and then I moved to Vermont for undergraduate, and I was in New York City for a little bit, and then I was in Colorado, and then I was in California, and then I was in Miami, and then I'm in Houston, and there's like other places in between. So moving from one place to another, I would always have a setup of my routine in like designated domestic spaces. And so I think it's always incorporating those domestic spaces, but like kind of like what's to the point of that domestic space, like a very prominent window or a prominent door that I remember, and it's taking kind of the essence of those shapes, so minimalizing those shapes and incorporating that with the ceramic work, kind of also blurring these different languages of domestic space with the available language that is already through like wood, metal, steel, ceramic that is already in the household already. So with color, it is also creating and also highlighting those aspects within that household. But I'm kind of blurring together. And it's not, I don't think it's an attempt, in that sense, I don't think it is an attempt to make a perfect form, but it's a blurred form that has added up to a language that has become kind of super precise. Maybe it's also my tendency to try to make things as precise as they can be, especially with straight edges. So there's not a lot of blobby stuff within my work. I don't know, I mean, again, that's like other different life experiences and personality traits. And on top of that, if anyone's interested, I'm a Capricorn, so it's very Capricorn of me to do that, if anyone is about astrology.
Any Capricorns in the chat room, please sound off. Let us know if you share these Capricorn tendencies. I myself am a Libra, so I cannot decide either way. I'm really glad that you brought up some of the really clean and precise techniques that you apply to the work, because I think it's really interesting to see the finished work and imagine how you have, and we'll see this work in a bit. We're going to talk about some of the work that he's been creating for his residents and other work he's been doing while here. But actually, I think it would be really interesting if we could actually see how you do some of this work on the wheel. And thank you for generously agreeing to do a demo for us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're going to be showing us today?
Sure. So for the current work I've done already, it's going to be like kind of one of the base forms. It's going to be like a pretty flat dish, shallow bowl platter sort of combo. So it's one of the base forms that I kind of based off. It's kind of like my canvas for the works that you're going to see later on in the video.
Cool. Well,
Alright, I'm gonna wedge some clay, which is me kneading the clay so I can have like a good consistency to work with and even out the moisture throughout the clay body. But then after that, you'll see me throw it.
Let's see if we can get the camera shot on you a little bit. Good, really? Okay. Great.
And I'm working with porcelain right now.
Can you tell us all about this special surface that you're using to work your clay?
Yeah, so this is a plaster slab. So it's the primary purpose of plaster is to suck the moisture out of the clay. And when you accumulate enough clay at one point to repurpose, you kind of wet it down and then you put it on top of the plaster slab and you let it dry over time under plastic, and then you kind of wedge it or knead it back to a workable consistency. So right now I'm wedging, so I'm using the spiral method. There's another method of just kind of like kneading it like dough, but I'm doing it in the spiral method. Which in the end, well, you're going to hear me banging up against the wall and some cups rattling.
Ceramics ASMR. You love to hear it.
So now that it's getting near its a malleable state that seems kind of evened out, I'm going to put it on a bat to throw. I grab some water too.
So you use a little water on the wheel to kind of affix the clay
Yeah.
to keep it from moving around
Yeah.
when you work it.
Yeah. Some people like to smack the clay onto it.
Who's cathartic?
I mean, depends on the person. But right now I'm just kind of like centering it initially on the wheel. A little water. Wet the surface a little bit.
So I don't have a lot of experience working with ceramics. Do people tend to have a dominant hand? Just like with writing?
Yeah, I'm right-handed, so naturally the wheel is going to go counterclockwise for right-handed. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're left-handed, or throw, I think there's some methods of, I know some Korean potters will throw the other way, because that's the way they were taught, from what I've heard from certain individuals that I know. But I am dominant on my right hand, so I'm gonna. I'll naturally throw counterclockwise. All right. Right now, I'm just trying to pull up initially.
It's kind of mesmerizing to watch up close. I feel like I've gotten to see you working, but since you tend to come in sort of later in the day, you know, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to see you working up close. Also, pandemic. So this is very cool to watch up close.
So right now I'm just trying to, like, sometimes when wedging, I won't consistently, like, get rid of all the bubbles within the clay. And so with that you can kind of run into problems with consistency throughout the form. So what this initial pull is meant to do, one is to get a good consistency with how wet the clay is, with the water, and also to get rid of air bubbles. So now I'm just pulling up again. Usually I'll have a slop bucket, but just because we're doing something a little different today, I'm just going to put my splash in here. And sometimes I'll just also like try to clean my wheel as I go.
So where do you source your clay while you're here in town?
Typically I'll mix my own clay.
Okay.
But I mean, at the moment I don't have the resource to mix my own clay. So I have Cone 10 Laguna English porcelain that I've gotten from the ceramic store in town. I've been working with that consistently. Right now I'm just pushing down the clay. And with English porcelain, a hydraulic, which is just a material that's mined in the UK, I believe, gets you this sort of consistency where it's super smooth and super white, and when you get it thin enough, it becomes pretty translucent within the light. And right now, what you're seeing me do is compressing the clay in, and also pushing the clay down, and also pushing it out at the same time. And what compressing your form, especially with plates and more flatter forms, is you don't run into cracks. And what you find with S-cracks when you're pulling out like this. And so occasionally you'll see me push back the clay inwards so it doesn't, you won't end up with S-cracks in the end when it's drying. So I think I'm going to do a more of a medium size, so roughly, I'm going to say 10 inches in diameter.
So I actually was sort of expecting you to use some kind of a tool to help shape it, but it's completely with the contour of your hand that you're getting these forms, it seems.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll use my sponge occasionally too, just to get some moisture.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, initially, it's always going to be with my hand. And I think what you see later on with my other forms, that I do use a couple trimming tools once it gets to like a leather hard state, to trim them down to a more straight edge shape.
Can you explain a little bit about leather hard state and unpack that for our viewers and let them know the process of that?
So right now it's obviously wet, and it's in a state where it's pretty malleable. Once it gets to a leather hard state, it's literally what it sounds like. It feels leather hard, so it's semi-flexible, but it's also not as flexible. It's not free to move around as such at the moment. And it's a shape where you can kind of like attach things to it with slip, which is liquid clay. Like if you were to be like throwing a cup or something, you can attach a handle with it. Not to say you do that with thin. And that's also when you also want to trim as well. I like to trim a little on the drier side, just so I can get more precise shapes. All right. Now I'm going to start using my sponge a little bit more, and let's see. I'm also slightly pushing in with my dominant right hand, as I'm also pulling out with my left hand, and also pushing up.
I'm seeing familiar form emerging here.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to push out some more clay, and it's I'm trying to make sure that it's even throughout.
So here you're using the sponge in combination with a little pressure to kind of get that evenness over the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Side.
I also, once I start having a lip within my wall, I'm going to compress it down just to make sure, every now and then, just to make sure it's even. Sometimes I'll use a needle tool. I don't know if I'm going to use it today, but to even out the edge.
Mm.
If it gets to a super thin point.
That's when you want to really be very precise with that kind of trimming. If I keep watching this, I'm gonna be hypnotized. I mean, do you feel like you get into a rhythm of being, not soothed, since it's obviously active and focused work, but do you find there to be some meditative quality as you pursue these forms?
I think it's kind of like a combination of frustration and also being calm also. I mean, I have to be calm or else these won't turn out to be as precise as I like them to be.
It's like the margin is such a razor thin one that it's rage and bliss on two sides of this thin line.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's. I listen to a podcast when I throw or music when I throw. That can be the soothing part, but then I get to the more difficult parts of throwing. Like if I go larger, it's going to get really frustrating to get a more precise form.
Are you planning to go larger?
I've definitely have gone larger in the past. Just at the moment, I'm more working on a feasible dinner table sort of size. But I might get back into larger work soon.
Every dinner table needs a large platter on which
yes.
to present your meats, fruits, and grains.
True, very true. Now I'm going to use a rib. I'm going to use a smaller rib just to maybe mirror where I want it to be. Just to clean up the form a little bit more. And it'll just get over when it gets to the leather hard state and it's ready to be trimmed. It's going to get to the state where I want to trim. So it's not super precise at the moment. But once it reaches a harder state, I can start trimming it to its more precise form. And as you can see, I'm just using the rib just to finesse those clean lines a little bit more. You can notice I'm not going as fast.
And you can really kind of make sure you're delicately getting that fine evenness.
Definitely.
As y'all are watching this, don't forget that we will be having an audience questions portion a little bit later. So please do ask us the questions that you have. If you want to know anything about Brian, his process, what he's working on, or anything, like what podcast does he listen to while he's working on stuff, please, please, please comment in our chat. And our amazing moderator, Blaze, will let us know what the questions are so we can answer them for you here on air.
Cool. So now I'm going to use this angled rib just to take off some of the excess clay
Okay.
near the bottom so I can start wiring it off.
So it's separating it from the wheel at that point. That must be a nerve-wracking part of the process. I say right before you do it.
Yeah, definitely. Once it's much larger, I have a much larger bat that I use for other things. But I have a relatively long wire. This one's a shorter one. Let's go this way. And I'm also.
You spin while you do this.
Some people just decide to since I'm working with a more flat form, I just will want to wire it while it's spinning. Some people we'll just stop it and wire it right off.
Mhm.
But I kind of want to be super consistent,
Right, that makes sense.
just because it's a platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for showing us that. Y'all, please let us know if you have any questions further about that. But we're going to give you a few seconds here to go wash your hands, get cleaned up, and when you're done, please feel free to join me over on the other side of your studio by your work. But yeah, this was really, really great to watch. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, if I think we have a specialty camera person, we can get our shot panned up a little bit here. We're trying out some new camera techniques, so if y'all just bear with us a little bit, we'd be most appreciative. But it's our pleasure to be able to show you in studio the works that Brian has been getting completed, some of which will be in residence, and some of which are part of the same body of work. But we are really excited to talk a little bit more about them and just bask in the glow of this diffuse lighting until Brian is ready to join us. Oh, there you are. Hey. Thank you again. That was a really enjoyable demo. I think that, it's always just really special to be able to unpack those sort of mundane process parts that you get really used to, but they're really special. And not being able to have people in the studio, I think it just added a lot. So thank you again for that.
No problem.
So right now we're standing near some work that's very deliberately colored and surfaced. So I just wanted to start maybe this part of the conversation just with an unpacking about your relationship to color theory, and maybe for the audience, if you could just tell them a little bit about what it is, but really kind of your relationship with it as it pertains to this work, since it's such a big part of the formal aspect of the work that you're creating.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, let's start way back. I think around in high school, I think I was really invested in Photoshop and trying to go into the photography world a little bit, and then that kind of got me fixed into like graphic design, and also a little bit of retail and marketing. Also, I think one of the points of graphic design is just to leap out of the audience, to look at a product more, or a poster or an idea, and so with graphic, the word graphic comes contrast and complements. That leads us to color theory. And so what makes something jump out or stand out, or maybe blend or hide in the background more and push something forward more. And so we get to multiple ideas of color theory too, of either it's like a color wheel, or whether it's something digital such as CMYK and RGB, and then we have like the color sphere, and also we just have solid colors, solid physical colors versus that of light. For example, solid color, with solid color, black is the essence of every color within solid physical form within pigment. And with light, we have white, which is the opposite of solid, white being the combination of every color, such as through putting white light through a prism and getting the rainbow through that. Let's see, I think one of the first beginning texts that I've read that is also kind of like a pedagogy of color theory is Joseph Alber's Interaction of Color, which is kind of like this this manual from like the 60s and 70s, and he's from the Bauhaus movement from Germany. That he sets out kind of like these tasks, instructions to put colors right next to each other to see what they do to each other, whether it's like what we say vibrating boundaries, which is another way of saying two colors that are contrasted or complementary, that kind of push one another to another, such as black and white to be blunt. but here, this is an example of what vibrating boundaries are. According to Joseph Albers, it's very red, this fire engine red with this almost cobalt blue that push against each other to make it seem like one is pushing one color out more than the other. And we have something more towards the tonality side of similar tones within their own respective color spectrums that seem to, I wouldn't say blend, but they're more neutral to each other, that they don't have the same effect as they are on the color wheel compared to blue-red.
Yeah.
Again, with other complementary colors, we have blue and orange, or green and lavender. So colors that are opposite of the color spectrum on the wheel that push one another against each other, so that something pushes something forward. And paired with that, with objects, that can make the object pop up more and become more potent to the viewer.
It's an interesting phrase, and I mean, I guess it's very descriptive that Albers uses, because the vibrational point is really almost a physical experience when you're looking at highly contrasted colors. Like for me, when I look at hyper Christmas red and green together, my eyes literally feel like they're vibrating.
Yeah.
What is, I mean, the intensity of the contrast, is a part of our understanding of color theory, but what it is about that that's creating that dynamic reaction within us in our vision? Is it just not knowing where to look, which each one equally commanding control over our vision, or what do you think is the cause of that?
I think it's a combination, again, with life experiences of what you have with the colors. Like for example, if your favorite color is blue or pink or whatnot, you have a tendency to look at that color more. But it's also biological and physical too. Some individuals are colorblind, so they can't see one color more than the other, so that comes into play with that. But also on the other biological side, red is the most recognizable color on on the light spectrum. It's the first color you would see, compared to that with violet, which is on other spectrum.
It's the lowest wavelength that we
lowest
can perceive.
Yes.
Whereas ultraviolet is the highest, so we can't see it at all.
Yeah. So, so if you take that spectrum and you take one side and the other next to each other, your eyes are just going to look back and forth at one another, so they become vibrating boundaries with that combination. Also, kind of the interesting thing also, once you put one color next to another, especially when they're in the same color group, such as blue right next to blue. One blue, let's say cobalt, the other maybe azure, which is going to be a more warmer tone. So you'll have this play on words where you get to a certain point of you have a warm tone blue, which sounds odd, right next to a cooler tone blue. Or you can break it down such as one has a little bit more red mixed into it compared to the other blue, which has less red mixed into it. So yeah, you come into these kind of word plays of a warm tone blue or a cooler tone red, for example.
Yeah. It reminds me of sort of the madness of differentiating of artist markers gray. And so you buy one and you're like, oh god, this is a degree cooler than I meant to buy, and I just can't handle that difference because it's so easy to tell. And that kind of subtle dissonance of you're slightly too warm or slightly too cool, it's interesting because I think a lot of people may not be aware of how attuned we really are to those things until they come up. You really notice them even though they're subtle.
Yeah, I think everyday example would be picking out a black outfit.
Yeah.
One black is more warm tone compared to a bluer black, for example, or a greener black.
This really hits home for me. I have a lot of black garments and none of them appear to match.
Yeah, that's one example. And white is another too.
Right.
There's for example, white walls, not one white matches the other. So you might think in one light it's going to look like this crisp white clean t-shirt on, in the end, maybe a cream pair of pants that are seem white in a different light. But once they're paired right next to each other, they seem yeah, one seems more clean than the other.
This seems like relatively tangential to discussion that rocked the world a few years ago about the blue dress and the gold dress.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of intersection of like personal, like subjective perception and lighting and technology and the way that color is being received. I think it's just, you know, it's something that we really viscerally experience, and sort of coming back and sort of thinking about it in a more formalized way is really interesting, because it makes, at least it makes me be more conscious about what I'm looking at and what things I'm really responding to. So it's been really interesting to have that kind of relationship with this evolving body of work of yours. I did have a question, and I think it's really interesting that, you know, you're very much a student of Albers and his theories on color theory, and you know, you follow a lot of, you know, his writing. I'm interested in that connection though with Annie Albers as well, because as a very much in the craft world artist, I think it's interesting that you're bringing this color theory from Joseph into a craft context, which I think Annie is more associated with. Do you have any kind of thoughts or reflections on sort of that funny intersection at the end of, you know, at the end of the time?
Well, it's funny, like, I have like a similar experience without Annie Albers, with some minor differences in the fact that Annie Albers wanted to be an architect, but because of the Bauhaus, they wouldn't let women in. I kind of wanted to be an architect, but I was never good at making blueprints or drawing or cross-section.
Oh, like drafting.
Drafting, yeah. Hence why I'm not an architect. But I'm also very interested in what architecture plays into craft and what my work's about. Similar with Annie Albers too, with her weavings.
Right.
Incorporating, again, Joseph Albers' ideas, and also being part of Black Man College with Albers and so many other abstract expressionists, also, and modernist minimalists at the time. But yeah, like, there's this this weird wavelength where I understand where she's coming from, where she kind of comes from an architectural angle, but I kind of want to come from an architectural angle, but in very different instances. Incorporating kind of like finesse in craft, but also these many theories that come from the Bauhaus.
Yeah. Well, there's clearly, you know, an architectural harmony that you're striving for, and the preciseness of your line, you know, your compositional choices very much are coming from that. And I guess in a way, too, with your concept of the object as an idealized form to be worked from, that kind of ties into this idea of the generative process being one that strives for a better, more ideal whole, which I suppose in a way Bauhaus was in its way attempting to do and really strove for in spite of everything.
Yeah.
So you're very much like a spiritual, like, wholeness, like connecting you to that tradition. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and that also ties it back to like what you said in the beginning about you trying to like socialize the materials so they read very similarly, and again like finessing the form also.
So like a democracy of material.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like that. It's more of that your intentionality, your actions are what distinguish one material from another in this context. That's interesting.
Yeah. So it's like it blurs like some, again, like wood looks like plastic or ceramic looks like plastic. One looks like the other, and also again color kind of like evens out that intentionality of like the hierarchies of materials. If we were to talk about hierarchies.
Right. Which we may not be interested in anymore.
Yeah.
We want to snatch hierarchies of materials.
Definitely.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, and then just kind of like flood it with color and individuality within the intention of the form, not necessarily the materials.
Yeah, I mean these are absolutely refreshing to look at. You know, they make me feel refreshed mentally, in some ways physically, just by virtue of the power of suggestion that color can provide. So actually I thought this might be a good moment to segue into our little show and tell section, because as I understand it, you know, we've talked about before, there is an extremely lengthy process of color combining and matching. So as I understand it, you have something for show and tell that kind of relates to that?
Yeah, and it's fairly stressful for the people that work at Lowe's or Sherwin-Williams or Behr or whatever paint supplier I may be working with at the moment, or Pantone. hopefully we'll get there at one point.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Pantone soon. Excuse me. He's gathering some items that I know anybody who is engaged in any amount of home improvement will recognize the moment you see them.
Especially children too, when
Oh,
they go
yes.
to the store. So what I carry with me quite a bit, there's a lot in my car too. The glove box has tons of paint samples. We have tons of paint samples. So if I'm at one location long enough and they've seen me around town and then I walk into their store, they're like, oh great.
It's him.
How many samples do you want this time? And it's quite a bit, and I apologize, but I also work needs to get done.
Yeah.
So a lot of the process for me, like day in, day out, is like looking at certain colors in a certain light. For example, does this operate the same way physically that I want it to operate? It on an object the same way as, let's say, these two yellows. And again, you can see the physicality of like, this is a warmer yellow and this is just more of a straight yellow.
Do you think we can hold that up a little bit
Yeah.
closer to see if the audience can get that? Because there's also an element of different lighting and perception through things like cameras, through monitors, and you know, there's an interesting dynamic there. So let us know if you have any thoughts about how these colors are looking in the camera. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah, and these are two similar sort of ideas to begin with. They are both similarly magenta or pinkish blue, but you can totally tell that one is warmer than the other, and they operate differently to the eye. One pushes one color more towards the eye than the other, and one is more kind of subdued comparatively to this combination.
I mean, very much ascribing like adjectives to these, like demure, like fun or bubbly. You know, they're reminding me of, especially like you were saying for design, like packaging.
Yeah.
Very much so, like soaps and candles, like a bubble blower or a hula hoop.
Definitely, colors that jump out to kids is much more vibrant colors.
Right.
People are really tired of me going to the paint store and just saying.
Okay, here's the question. Can you right now come up with the most, to you personally, challenging color combination of these swatches? The one that's like gonna make you grit your teeth a little bit. Because we see what harmony looks like for you. What does chaos look like for you?
Gosh, that's hard. Just because I've chosen these colors.
So carefully, they all will eventually, all do in some ways go together. I'm seeing shuffling them. They all look really good together.
They're all very like warm toned. And they're very, very much a jewel tone palette. So it's going to be very hard. So what is very different with this palette, I would say, is I think something with social connotation, I think, is going to make me grit my teeth a little bit more.
There you go.
That'll say Christmas.
There's sort of like an overuse and the saturation that's a little unpleasant with that.
Yeah. I mean, this is like straight red.
Yeah.
This is like straight red. See, that's so hard.
I feel like there's this sort of like a neutrally tone underneath that burgundy color. I feel like just the blasé combination of the most neutral ones is probably,
actually,
that's pretty rough. Although actually I can see a sneaker looking very cool in those colors.
I think actually like what I find pleasing is neutrals with saturated colors.
Yeah.
I think that tends to be my color combination.
Let's see, what do y'all think? How's that look? Sound off in the chat.
This kind of makes me cringe.
That's samey.
It's just two types of warm tones next to each other, but they're also subdued, so they kind of don't do anything to each other.
So if the colors are similar and the tonality is too similar at the same time, it's sort of just not doing anything.
I think anything with attached with social connotations to it that we already understand, I kind of like want to move away from. I kind of want to have a language that kind of speaks on its own without having any things too.
Yeah. Well, I have to say it's interesting that you originally were kind of relating with Photoshop and design because I feel like you're kind of touching on a lot of like, trendy isn't the right word, but sort of, Pantone colors that have come out recently, like that purple is very much in that vein, and there's a lot of design aesthetics that are happening right now, particularly with the animation, that are kind of really incorporating this sort of color theory, but this sort of specific palette that just gives me a lot of feelings about those types of design realms and that software particularly. So do you feel like that conversation has just been ongoing, or do you kind of reference back and then bring it forward between the different sort of realms that you're working in?
Well, I think it's so complex because I also think about marketing quite a big, and also like mass-produced objects also, but also like making something by hand that looks like it's been made by a machine. Also, so there's like this complex duality that's going in my head about like an IKEA mug, but also putting that with I don't know, what's a good example of someone that uses like a Glossier pink, or like a millennial pink, with a
Glossier does know millennials very well. They know us.
And putting that on a mass-produced item, and what type of conversation that produces. So there's some conversation with pop culture also about what marketing is at the moment, but also I think that comes down to also formal aspects. That why do those items and objects pop out to a mass audience? And putting that towards like an art form, and utilizing those ideas, formal ideas, and also marketing tactics to an object that makes it individual, but also different.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that we have reached the portion of our conversation where we are going to open it up for questions from the audience. Do we have any questions or comments from our viewing audience? Aw, y'all are shy. Well, let me think. I was actually going to ask if you wouldn't mind. You have a really interesting selection of books here that you brought with you. I was thinking maybe you could share with our audience some of what the literature that inspires you that you do want to bring with you. Because I feel like books are also kind of part of that traveling set of life that you're building on
for
with your work. So those are part of that sort of library that sits on the shelf that you're kind of referencing here. So are there any books you'd like to tell us about?
Let's see. Let's go with these. Let's do that one. So this one is more like photo theory. This is Camera Lucida by Roland Barthes. He talks about, in this book, he talks about what the photograph does to painting and its historical references, and also what it does to the viewer also, that it is sometimes an immediate effect of what a person feels immediately when they look at it, the affect of it, or he calls it the punctum. And also the decorum, which is how he describes the more, social read on it, the socio-political read on a certain object or idea. And that's more on how he looks at photography, but I think it relates so much to color also.
Oh, yeah.
And again, this is, Joseph Alber's Interaction with Color. This is just, again, the pedagogy and the text of the ways of how he investigates color.
It's kind of funny that you opened up to a page with a lot of neutrals.
Yeah, I personally like neutrals.
Yeah.
I wear neutrals. I don't wear these colors as much, but I guess that's more of my mind.
Yeah.
This is more of the exterior.
The externalization.
Yeah.
Did we get a question from the audience just now?
Good question.
Oh, what's that, audience?
So, question: how do you feel about Ariel Pink?
Ariel Pink.
Like the musician?
Ooh, don't know.
Ariel.
Like
How does it spell?
Can Jason tell us what he means? Jason Dibley.
I think he means Ariel Pink. Like the, is that a musician?
Sorry, what was that?
ARIEL.
Pretty sure they're-
Aerial Pink.
I'm pretty sure they're a performer, but I don't know much music stuff, so I'm gonna guess that that's what it is. But what do you think about it?
Would you mind looking that up really quick?
Right now.
Thank you for Googling, Blaze. We're very much appreciative.
Ariel Marcus Rosenberg, also known as Ariel Pink, an American musician,
I knew a
singer,
thing.
songwriter from the 1970s to 1980s pop.
I did
I
not
don't know
know.
who that is.
I did not know that.
I don't
Ariel Pink was
know
from
who
them.
that is, unfortunately.
I've heard about Ariel Pink, and I feel like it's one of those things where I'm like, I really need to listen to it, I really need to listen to it, and then I never do, and then I am caught in a moment exactly like the one we're in now.
Mhm.
Nightmare. I'm just kidding. Well, actually, since we're talking about music, what do you like to listen to when you get in the mood?
Oh gosh, it really depends on the day.
Like working, like if you're like really buckling down.
Oh, it's. I think yesterday it was pop.
Like straight up pop?
Yeah, like it was like Miley Cyrus just had a new single come out.
Yeah.
I listened to that. There's also some Blackpink. If you were talking about Pink, some K-pop in there. There's what was I listening to? It was for a while. It was like the new Weekend, Cardi B. The new
I was
Cardi
gonna
B
ask
song.
what you think about that new Cardi B song.
I'm into it.
It's good.
I'm into it. I think it's a bop. I'll put on blast,
Yes.
uncensored,
Yes.
of course.
Yes.
Also, what was it? I think it was like the new Weekend album that was like released a couple months ago. I'm still listening to that. There's like some folky things too. I like folky things too. I also
Okay.
like atmospheric things. If you know Arca.
I've heard of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they.
Ooh, I don't
think
know
it's
any of
them. I think it's them. They
I-
prefer. I mean, they go by they them now.
Okay.
It's pronounced.
That's cool.
So yeah, they are a synth pop. Not really pop. I think it's more synth electronic music from I think Spain. I think they are based in Spain at the moment. So yeah, a lot of synthy things sometimes and pop. Yeah, it's like I kind of listen to everything.
Well, I did actually want to ask you a question about your dance background. So talking about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
music that you're into is a good segue. Can you just talk a little bit about your background in dance and how it? I can see how it informs it because I've talked to you a lot
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I know you. But I think if you wouldn't mind, I think it'd be really interesting for you to unpack that for the audience.
Yeah, so I went to Bennington College, so there's a lot of Trisha Brown, if you know Trisha Brown from the 60s, 70s, 80s, choreographer from New York. Well, she was based in New York, but I think she's from California. I might be wrong. I might be wrong about that, actually. That actually incorporated a lot of gallery performances into her work. So it's like performative, but it's also like meant to be purely dance. And I think that influences a lot of like task-based ideas that come from my current work, such as like move an arm this way, and that becomes the task, and that becomes a performance. Or do things in this synchronized rhythm, and that's the task, and that is the finished work. So a lot of alums are from that have taught there through their MFA program in dance. So that's where a lot of I think my influences come from. So it's a lot of like limited, minimal sort of movements that come out from there that have inspired a lot of works that have progressed through. Excuse me, my dance progression, performance, work with clay. Also, made work with clay and work with other materials such as sand or paint. With dance performance in the past.
Like tracking motion.
Yeah, tracking.
Mark making
Yeah.
as well. That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sense when I look at your pieces, and when I've installed some of them too, that there's a choreography to it. These actually are very unique and interesting because when we were installing work in the hallway earlier, that was from an earlier body. They were meticulously and super carefully balanced, so much so that we were having to sort of choreograph our movements when installing them to make sure that everything hit an equilibrium point. And that was an interesting experience. these feel like they're about to be in motion or choreographed to be movable, but I think that you might want to show our audience what is so interesting about some of these pieces and how you conceived of this particular body of work.
Yeah, so I think we'll start with this one. So you'll have instances of, say, like a movable piece such as this, and you have this color palette going on the top, but then once you remove it, you have a similar color palette, but it's a slightly different tone. It's a slightly warmer tone at the bottom that kind of activates the top color of those objects. And these objects are fixed on top comparatively to the work in the past. And we'll have work such as this, which is pretty much fixed.
It's still, I know it's not going to do it, and my stomach drops still.
Yeah, so I think there's something to say about like having work that is already fixed and can't be moved, and it has something to say about that compared to work that is also able to move and grow in different ways, so different combinations. So it's different methodologies of working, but it's still within the same realm of what I'm interested in.
Yeah. Well, do we have any last questions from our audience this evening? We good? Well, I think that we've covered a lot of ground today, and it's just been really a pleasure, in spite of the circumstances, to have you here with us in residence and watch the evolution of this body of work, because it's been definitely a thing that started one way and ended up another because of the circumstances we're all going through. But I have to say, it's been really great to see what's come out of it. And this work will not be in residence, but other work will be. So please do make sure that you come and join us when our exhibitions open in the fall and see the work that he'll have up and in residence. These pieces up here will be, but the rest is to remaining as a surprise to be seen. I want to thank you so much again for bringing us into your space and letting us hang out with you this evening. Thank you everyone who tuned in this evening. Just wanted to really quickly say, this is not the last studio session. This is an ongoing series. So everyone, please make sure, I'm going to make sure I open my paper and get the dates right, because I have a tendency to just freestyle. Our next studio session will be on September 3rd at 6 p.m. with Nicole Lemire, ceramist who's here in residence. I'm really looking forward to talking to Nicole about her work and process, and I hope you all are too. Well, with that, I guess we will bid you all a warm farewell. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you on September 3rd, same craft time, same craft channel.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.